Hi, and welcome to Ticket to Life. I am Henry, and I am so happy that you have allowed me to spend time with you today. Pull up a chair, unless, of course, you're driving. Just listen and be safe. We have got a super helpful show today, and we are going to be talking with Phil, and he is going to share his story about his mental health, how it started, how he's been able to handle it, and how he has survived with it, in hopes that he will be able to share this with those of you suffering mental health issues, and to let you know that you are not alone on this part of life's journey. But before we begin, I must tell you about the disclaimer and let you know that Ticket to Life are my opinions and thoughts on certain things, and we all go through life through so many different things. We go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I am not a therapist, a doctor, a love guru, or a life coach. Again, these are only my opinions. So, Phil, I cannot tell you how happy I am that you are here along with your beautiful wife, Leah. And just a little note, I know Leah from when we worked together at the elementary school. She was a fifth grade teacher, and I was the admin assistant. And we have stayed in touch with social media, of course, or through social media. But once I learned about Phil, I knew that I had to ask him to come share his story. Now, the interesting part of this is those who suffer from mental health issues are usually women and young adults. And I loved that Phil was sharing his story and not being shy about what he was going through or what he has gone through. And as we know, it is hard for most men to express feelings or what they may be going through. So, who is ready to hear Phil's story? I know I am. And here he is. Welcome, Phil.
For one, I'm super excited to share my story. Obviously, I've had my own mental health journey, and I've battled myself really since 2012. And I have decided to really get more public with it here recently, within the past year, because I realize now there's so many people that silently struggle. I say silently struggle because there are so many people that will silently struggle with any kind of mental health issue, mental health problem. You can call it anxiety, you can call it depression. But when it comes to men in general, they don't say anything. And they take that battle and they make it internal and they hold it in. And I used to be the guy that held it in for years and years and years. And I got so good at putting on a good face where I could go to work, I could do my job, and nobody knew. Nobody knew that I was dying on the inside. Nobody knew that I was extremely, extremely uncomfortable because I didn't show it. That was like my secret sauce. And it's nothing that I should brag about, but it's something that I was able to do. And I was able to hide it for so long where I would feel like I was just dying on the inside. And I felt hopeless. And I felt lost. And I didn't know what to do. My only safe person at the time was my wife. And I dealt with this for years. It goes back to November 2012. I remember the exact day. I think when you experience something that's traumatic in your life, it's something that you'll never forget, and you can go back to the moment that it happened. Because I used to be the guy that did not struggle with anxiety. I used to be the guy that if we had a conversation about anxiety, I would say, well, why can't they just get over it? Or I didn't understand it until it happened to me. Until I felt like a switch was flipped inside my brain that I couldn't turn off. And that switch that flipped felt like it was on forever and never turned off. So November 2012, my wife and I went and saw the very last, I think it's the Twilight series. Maybe that one's called Breaking Dawn. But we went, my wife had read the books. We had seen all the movies. And I remember I was driving home and I began to feel extremely, extremely uncomfortable. As I was driving my car, all of a sudden, I was having trouble even pressing the gas or the brake pedal because my leg began to shake. By the time that we got parked and I got out of the car and walked in the house, now this shaky leg feeling had become an entire bodily sensation that made me so uncomfortable that I didn't even know what was happening. I began to shake. I began to grab my wife. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if I was having a heart attack. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't stand still. I couldn't even walk or pace. I did not know what to do. Something was going on the inside in my body, and it was a full-blown panic attack. It was my very first one that I have ever experienced in my life back in 2012, and it just threw me for a loop. That night, I will never forget, because that night is really what started my anxiety journey. And so from that night, I remember after it happened, after it got better, then now I had a fear of, I don't want that to ever happen to me again. So now I had a fear of a panic attack. And this spun into several kind of like personal health stories that were all summed up in a short amount of time. So after this happened, I began experiencing these headaches. And when I say a headache, I want you to picture a headache that does not go away. It's with you every minute, every day, every hour. From the morning you wake up to the time you lay your head down to go to sleep, the headache is not gone. Now, I've gone through panic. I'm dealing with anxiety. I'm dealing with this headache. And I began to go to the doctor, questioning, asking questions. What's going on? Several doctor's appointments. They end up ordering a brain MRI for me. And even going to get a brain MRI kind of scared me. Like, I had anxiety about that. I get a brain MRI, and the receptionist called me. It was right before Christmas. And she told me that they need to schedule me to see a neurosurgeon. But I wouldn't be able to make that appointment until after the first of the year. So I had to get through Christmas, and I had to get through New Year's, only knowing that I had an appointment coming with a neurosurgeon, only knowing that I had something on my MRI in my brain that was off, that was not normal, that would require future care and a visit with a neurosurgeon. This spun me into a dark place. I celebrated Christmas with my family. I had a young daughter. I had a happy family. I was non-existent. If you would have seen my eyes at the time, they might as well look glazed over, because that's how I looked. I was in a state of panic. Around this time as well, I also had a routine eye appointment. And during the routine eye appointment, my just regular optometrist said, "Hey, we noticed a spot in your eye, and we think you need to have some further checkups regarding this." I got referred to a specialist for my eye and found out that I had a large spot in my eye. And the doctor told me, well, it could be cancer, or it could be what's just called an iris nevus, which is basically just a freckle in your eye. So, again, panic that was already there has now spun into another level of panic. So the switch that I said that flipped on in my brain, that was the anxiety switch, it never turned off. When people talk about anxiety, they talk about a fight, a flight, or a freeze response. And I definitely had one of those turned on, and I couldn't turn it off. And I was trying to do everything that I could. If you fast forward to the news from getting the basically the information regarding my brain, and the MRI report that read I had a cyst on the back of my brain, to my neurosurgeon appointment, he basically tells me this is probably something I've had my entire life. They considered it an incidental finding. Should be a massive relief, right? And it was. It was a massive relief. I felt very good about that, to know like, oh, I've probably had this thing my entire life, and I'm in my early 30s, so I'm good to go. I go to my eye doctor. I go to the specialist. They begin to monitor this for 6 months. Where I would go in, they would take pictures of it, they would show it to me, all come to find out, yeah, it's probably just a very large eye freckle, no concerns of cancer. Great. So another set of good news. However, the switch that I say was in my brain, it never turned off. And what happened for me is I developed severe health anxiety from this. This health anxiety would really spin out of control, where I was always worried about my health, and I was always worried that something was wrong, and I was always worried that maybe the doctors missed something. Anxiety takes on a lot of different forms for different people. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's nervousness. For some people, they can't sit still. For me, there were very physical symptoms. My face used to go numb all the time. My mouth would go numb. My shoulders would go numb. My arms would go numb. I drove to the emergency room on 2 different occasions thinking I was having a heart attack. It was just anxiety. So I've grown a lot over the years. I've learned how to deal with this a lot over the years. And, you know, we can talk through it today, and I can share where I'm at today. Like, if you go back from 2012 to us being in 2025, I can show and speak to how much growth I've had by going through this. And also to the point of realizing that I'm not the only one. And there's a lot of people that struggle, and they have anxiety, they have depression, they have a silent battle that they've been struggling with, but they're not sure who they can talk to. And that's why I wanted to make my voice be heard.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's amazing to me, but I think a lot of this actually is going to help. Just the bits and pieces you have said, like, oh, someone's going to say, oh, wait, that's me. Oh, wait, I have that. So how did this affect you during 2020 and COVID?
So
that must have been just like...
Yeah, absolutely. So now, I mean, from November to 2012, right? Mm-hmm. To then we get COVID in 2020. 8 years have gone by. And throughout this time, I had some counseling. I had been off and on medicines from time to time. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I was on an anti-anxiety, like antidepressant type medication. Mm-hmm. I would take it for a little while, get in a really good place, get to a point where I didn't have to take it anymore. So around the COVID time, when the world was just going crazy, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when the statistics were first shared and they were talking about COVID. I mean, those stats of getting it and it leading to like severe illness started off really high. If you remember, they started off really high, and then the percentages came down and the percentages came down. So whenever I got COVID for the first time, and it was around 2020 that my wife and I both got it, the biggest concern for me, being a health anxiety sufferer, was the fact that these people were having trouble with oxygen, right? The O2 sensors, putting them on their finger, getting a reading. I became a little obsessed with that because I wanted to make sure that my O2 sensor was reading correctly and that I wasn't having trouble breathing. So I was constantly doing a check for that. So it definitely hit me in the health anxiety realm. But for the most part, through COVID, I was able to get through it pretty well. Because one thing that I did throughout all of this is I focused on what I could control. So if I found out I couldn't control my anxiety, I couldn't control how I felt because I was always uncomfortable. What I could control was my diet, the way that I ate, the way that I took care of myself. And so I really honed in on that. In 2012, at the very beginning of this, I was almost 60 pounds heavier than I am now. Wow. So what I did was I took control of my health and everything that would have scared me, right? My dad had a heart issue when he was 46 years old. And so all of the things that would bother someone that struggles with health anxiety, I said, I'm going to grab control of that. And I'm going to control my eating. I'm going to control my exercise. And I'm going to take really good care of myself. And that paid off. So throughout COVID, even when we did get sick, I would say we handled it pretty well because we were also really taking care of our bodies at the time.
That's good, because that would have been a scary thing. It was horrible here. The other thing, if this isn't too personal, how has this affected your marriage and being a dad? How has this, and then I want you to go into how the process of where you are now, how you've got here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay, so marriage, let me cover that one first, because my wife was my only safe place. My wife was the only person that I could be 100% Phil, 100% me. I didn't have to hide. I didn't have to put on a mask, right? So the mask could come off. So on an 8-hour work day, I put a mask on. I'm hiding who I am all day long. By the time I would get in my car after a full work day, I was mentally and physically exhausted because I was fighting how I truly felt to handle my business, to work and take care of the people who are underneath me, to have the answers when I'm at work. I've been in a management position for a very long time, so I'm used to making decisions and problem solving and being able to, move at a very fast pace. So to do that and feel extremely uncomfortable was a challenge. To get in my car, to come home and to see my wife and to know that that was my safe place. She was my rock and has always been my rock. And the person that I could be me. I didn't have to be anybody else, right? I could be me. And I could look at her in the eye and say, babe, I'm not okay. I don't feel okay. I could cry as a man, right? We're brought up, don't cry, don't show emotion. But when you are struggling so bad just to exist and to survive, to have a safe place and a rock that supports you is gold. So that was absolutely amazing.
Leah.
Yeah, she's been amazing. She's been absolutely amazing. So there's that side, and now there's the side of being the dad. So in being the dad, my kids were young. 2012, right? So 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. My kids are still very young at this time. And so I can't express to them like what daddy's going through when it comes to a high level of anxiety. I got to be dad. I've got to be there. And I thought I was, but at the beginning I was not. And there was a turning point at the beginning of my anxiety. My daughter was in, let me think, maybe first grade? My wife's sitting here with me, maybe second grade. Maybe second grade. And I had been going in the room at night and basically entering a state of depression where I was so lost, non-existent, not really eating. She would have to make sure I was eating. If I took a bite of something, I just wanted one bite, that was it. I was in a little bit of a dark hole early on, because I'd never experienced this before. This was so new to me. And I'm a man of faith, right? Like as a man of faith, praying that God would take this away from me and it not going away and me having no control of it, it really crippled me. It really, really crippled me. And so there was parts of me being a dad that I had pulled back from. And I didn't realize it in the moment because I was so lost in my feelings. I didn't realize it in the moment, but I have this napkin today. When my daughter was in the first, second grade, she brought me this little napkin, and it was a handwritten note from her. She saw it. She was concerned with her daddy. And so she wrote on this sheet of paper basically something that says, Dad, I hope you feel better. I pray you're okay. And it was the sweetest thing.
That's so sweet.
And
she saw it.
It was on a Chipotle.
It's funny because it's like her favorite place to eat. She's like, I knew it. It's my favorite place to eat. And I did it.
Chipotle napkin. It was like, okay, enough is enough for me. Like, this is my little girl, right? So I just flipped all of that where I'm going to be dad. I'm going to be dad, and I am not going to let this affect me being dad. So the story from there to now is now I can share with my kids. My son is 17. My oldest daughter is 19. She's going to be 20. And so they know everything that I want to do with my Instagram page, with my message, with the business, with the Mental Warrior. So they support me 100%. And my daughter is actually somebody that struggles a little bit with anxiety. So she can turn to me at any time, and I'm there for her.
That's awesome.
Now it's been really neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think it's great. So do you think that, what do you think the point was that said, I've got this under control?
So it was a big thing for me. There were little points along the way, right? So little points along the way of, a napkin from my daughter. So now I'm like, okay, this is affecting your family. I feel like, let's get it together. But I remember thinking, like, when you get really fired up and you're like, bring it on, like, it's like an attack mode, right? Like, I'm ready to attack this thing, and if anxiety comes, I'm ready to face it. At first, I thought that was the way. Like, I really did. I thought that was the way. Let me tell you why that's not the way. Because you're not always going to feel like attacking, right? You're not always going to feel like fighting. People will speak this way, like, oh my gosh, just fight it. You can do this. Fight it. Fight against it. Bring it on. But you're not always motivated. You're not always up for a fight. Sometimes you're tired. And sometimes you don't want to fight. And so when the symptoms come, maybe it's the day where you're ready to fight. And you're like, bring it on. I've been here before. This is just anxiety. And all that self-talk is great. That self-talk is amazing. And it will help you if you can just say to yourself, I've been here before. These are just symptoms. Symptoms are just symptoms. And they'll pass. That's great and all. And that works many a times. But sometimes when anxiety comes on strong, your logical brain turns off. Right? So everywhere that you found logic no longer exists. And as I'm saying this out loud to my anxiety sufferers and anyone who struggled with anxiety, they're going to understand this. They're going to know, oh my gosh, when my anxiety and my panic comes on so strong, I can't find the logic until the anxiety goes away. And then when it goes away, logical brain comes back and you can say, oh, shoot, okay, in this situation, next time I can do this. You can have those logical conversations. When you are in the middle of panic or the middle of intense anxiety, when I talk about anxiety, I am not talking about nervousness. I am not talking about people that say you're having anxiety because you're not taking action on something you need to in life, or it's just nervous. No. It's not a nervous energy like before you get up and make a big speech. Like that's a good thing. That is the same level of energy that our bodies have for excitement. When people, that kind of anxiety is the same as excitement. No, I'm talking about like panic, anxiety. Your body is uncomfortable and it is internally doing things and giving you symptoms that you sure as heck didn't ask for. Your logical brain is shut off. So what helped me the absolute most more than anything else is I stopped turning anxiety into a monster. Because for the longest time, it was a monster. Like, I was so uncomfortable. I didn't want to feel that way anymore, right? So if I don't want to feel a certain way, then I'm making it a monster. Like, oh gosh, please no, I don't want to feel that way. This is so bad. You know, the numbness starts again, and the tingling, and the shaky legs, and the sweating, and my feet are sweating, and my hands are sweating. And it's physiological symptoms that have come on that have made you so uncomfortable that you don't want to have. Well, again, we've made it a monster, right? Mm-hmm. So the big win for me is one word, and that's acceptance. It was huge. It was huge to just be like, I'm anxious right now, and that's okay. My arm is tingly right now, and that's okay. My hands are sweaty right now, and that's okay. I accept it. Now I'm not fighting it. Now it's no longer a monster. Now I'm just calling it for what it is. It's just anxiety. And I accept it. And it's going to pass because it passes every time. Right? So as I got to that, I realized that's how you win. And that's how you beat it. That doesn't mean it's going to go away. Maybe you're going to have anxiety. But you don't have to fight it. You're going to be okay. And you can accept it.
Amazing. That is amazing. And I know that this is going to reach so many who wonder what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
And I know like I said, when I saw that you started a new business and I thought, oh, and then I saw one of your reels, I'm like, oh, he's got to come on the podcast.
Yeah,
he's got to be
sure.
heard. You got to spread
sure.
that word. So that is just amazing. Now tell me a little bit about your business.
I sure will. Okay, so on Instagram, we have a page that is called Mental Warrior Mentality. Okay? Now, I have Mental Warrior apparel. I have a Shopify link. That is there for if somebody wants to support my message and they get behind it and they connect with it. You'll see a sweater on there and it says, "This is personal." Like, that's the tagline. The reason why I say this is personal, because being a mental warrior, I have my story, right? But everybody has a story and they can get behind it. They can get a shirt that says "This is personal" because it's personal to them. So that's the message they connect to. This is personal to me because I can't fill in that blank for you. but somebody else can fill in that blank and say, this is personal to me because I am a mental warrior because, and you fill in the blank. At the end of the day, we're all mental warriors. They just look different, right? If mine is mental health and it's health anxiety, well, I'm a mental warrior because of that. If somebody's wanting to perform at a sport, if they're wanting to speak on stage, if they're wanting to do really well, if they're wanting to write a book, if they're wanting to grow in their business, whatever it might be, that person can really get connected to the message of the mental warrior and that mental warrior mentality. And that's everything that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to spread a message. People aren't alone. A message of hope, a message of positivity.
Okay, great. Do you have a website you want to put on there? And I can link it to the description on the podcast. But if you want to say whatever it is. And...
Yeah. So absolutely. The biggest thing right now is we have a Facebook page, which is Mental Warrior Apparel. Like that's the Facebook page. Instagram page is Mental Warrior Mentality. And the reason why I did Mental Warrior Mentality is because I'm really pushing a message. I'm really trying to build a community of people that can get behind and watch my videos and see my reels.
Yeah. And tell me about Wednesday, because I see them every Wednesday.
Yes. Warrior Wednesday, and it's real people, real stories. So these could be very traumatic stories from somebody losing a loved one. This could be from somebody experiencing anxiety. This could be from somebody dealing with imposter syndrome. This could be whatever makes that person a warrior. Maybe something that they've overcome in their life. And so it's real people, real stories. People are getting on there and they're sharing their stories. It's been super powerful.
Okay. Well, all I have to say is thank y'all so much. This, I know, is going to help some people. And if you want to contact them, you can do it through Facebook. If you want to share your story with them, reach them through Facebook, right?
And Instagram.
And Instagram, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Or if you want to share your story as Phil and Leah have done, you are more than welcome to do so. Send me an email. You can text me on the description for a Ticket to Life. And thank you both so much for being here and sharing all of this information, because you definitely have made a difference. So this is Henrie. Thank you so much for listening to Ticket to Life, and I will see you next week. Please go find your blessings. Thanks for being here.